On this episode of Balance and Manifest, Your Rise to Greatness, we are joined by Holly Rawlings from My Way Fitness Prepped. Holly grew up in a small town in Arizona with her father and abusive stepmother. Holly would escape the horrors of home life by spending time cheerleading and in the rodeo world as a barrel racer and team roper. But the effects of her traumatic childhood would follow her throughout her life. Join us as Holly shares her story of battling her past, finding her faith in God, quitting her career at 50 years old to bet on herself, and finding her passion in helping other people achieve their fitness goals. Sit back and enjoy this inspirational episode. Welcome to another episode of Balance and Manifest, Your Rise to Greatness, the podcast where our guests share their stories of overcoming hardship and fighting their way to success to help inspire and motivate others. I am your host, Sean.
And I'm Sav.
If you guys could do us a favor and subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform, like this episode, share it, and if you could, give us a quick rating and review. Helps us move up in the charts, helps us get these stories out to more people. And as always, this podcast is presented by Nine Realms Athletics. Follow Nine Realms Athletics on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. For our listeners, if you go over to ninerealmsathletics.com, use promo code MANIFEST to get a discount on all of our merch. Mm-hmm. Also, Miss Savannah has started taking clients.
Oh my gosh.
For online training. So if anybody is interested, then feel free to find her at Balance and Manifest Training.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh my goodness, bring it on. Any challenge. I'm ready for it.
All right. So tonight, we have a special guest with us. She's been a big supporter of ours, big fan of her work and watching her grow her business. She's the owner of My Way Fitness Meal Prep, Holly Rawlings. How you doing, Holly?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yes, I'm so excited. We were literally just chatting the other day about how good people need to support good people more often, because just chit-chatting back and forth with you and seeing, kind of us both supporting each other's businesses and rooting each other on has literally been so refreshing these past few months, and just kind of finding friends that like the same things, but we're from completely different states.
Right. I agree with you 100%. I love that you guys are supporting our small business and you post about it all the time and vice versa. It's just super exciting. I think you guys are awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome to see, and we're going to get into it, I promise, is to see this growth of literally coming up. I mean, for us, out of nowhere, just saw this thing popped up and have watched it skyrocket and blow up, and it's really, really awesome and cool to see. We're states away, but I know hopefully eventually someday it'll be traveling. But yeah, it's really cool to see you guys blow up like you have.
It's not what I expected at all, and I'm super stoked about it. So I feel like I'm just living a dream.
Woo!
So we were talking a little offline, getting an update. You recently had an injury that you've been working on getting rehabbed. It's kind of a rough way to start the beginning of the year. How's that going?
So it's been kind of constant injury over probably the last 20 years. So I've had quite a bit of procedures done. I've had a couple spinal surgeries done over the years. And it works for a little bit, and then you just get re-injured, or it's just, a different situation. It's not, now I'm having more nerve issues. Before it was just more joint issues. I've had, over the last 2 months, I've had a couple spinal blocks and some ablations. And my last ablation was this last Thursday. And I'm just hoping and praying that this just allows me to have the freedom of pain, at least minimal, so I can do the things that I want to do. So yeah, let's hope that 2022 is my good year.
Yeah.
And the ablation, that blocks the nerves, correct?
Yeah, it just burns all the nerves. So from L3 to S2, all those nerves have been
And
burned. And it doesn't last forever. So it can last up to 2 years. So my goal is to just get as fit as I can and build my core, build my back muscles to where I can just, live my life better.
oh, so it just allows is it almost like it relieves the pain, and then do they actually promote you to start working out, or is that just a goal of yours to get strong enough to make sure that when possibly the pain does come back that you're in a better situation?
It's a little bit of both. Being that I can do more exercise and do things that are going to challenge my body a little bit more, that's going to help with the inflammation that's been caused from, all this damage on my vertebrae and my low back over the years. So yeah, I was a barrel racer and a team roper for almost 22 years. So I have multiple injuries. I've had multiple broken bones, been bucked off horses a million times. So that's where all this damage came from. So it was self-inflicted for sure. And now I'm just dealing with the after effects of it.
Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah,
that's really cool. Savannah's her background, she's been in the 4-H and raising animals. That's a whole new realm for me. So for people listening, what exactly did that entail?
What do you mean?
Like the barrel racing and like what is the
Sean has okay, so I'm a country girl too. Sean has no country background. Do you know what barrel racing is exactly? Like
it's like racing
Show
around.
them a picture. Yeah, if you watch a rodeo and you see those girls on their horses running around the barrels, that's barrel racing. You go as fast as you can, as close to the barrels without knocking them down.
the
Gotcha.
3 barrels.
Three. Gotcha.
barrels.
I can count to 3. I got this. I'm a master at horse riding because I used to ride a horse on a Zelda game when I was a kid, so I'm really good at it in real life.
So my step grandmother bought me my first pony when I was 3.
Oh my gosh.
And a little Shetland pony, his name was Arrow. And then my sister had Bo, so it was Bo and Arrow. They were brother and sister. And then she just started us competing, that little. And what it would be is just us sitting on our little ponies and somebody, with the lead rope, just bringing us around the barrels. And as I got older, I got a horse, and just it became a competitive sport for me. It was just in my blood. I loved the adrenaline rush and the competing, the traveling, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, it's literally one of the best. Running a horse is literally one of the best feelings. I can relate as far as being that young kid and growing up on horses and literally being 4 years old and starting my mom really got me into it, and it was one of the best experiences I had as a kid.
Yeah, I love it. I don't like what damage it's done to my body.
Yeah.
That was my fault. So,
So what got you on the professional route? How did you get into that? Obviously you grew up riding, but then
you start competing. I started competing in junior rodeos when I was, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then you just have to, you just kind of make your way into the professional, semi-professional circuit. And you compete. It costs a lot of money, and you just go from there and just hope that you can make it. And I went as long as I could. I started having kids, and I kept trying to do it, and it just was too much for me, and I gave it up. So
wow, you went all the way into like family and adulthood. And
I did, and I even tried to get back into it into my 30s, and I was doing it for just a little bit, and then I actually had my daughter doing it as well, and she loved it, but it was just too much, too expensive, and it's not a lifestyle for a mom. It's not a lifestyle to raise a family in. So
okay.
So did you travel? Like again, I'm like completely novice to this. Is it like life on the road, or is it seasons, or is it just how did that work?
It depends. And I did travel. I traveled throughout all of Arizona. Sometimes I was into Colorado. Sometimes I was into Texas. Not much. I also was a team roper, so that's completely different field. So I did both of those things, not at the same time. But pretty much rodeoing is all year round.
And the team roper that's like where you're catching, is it calves?
Yeah. So you have a header and you have a heeler. And so you have, they let the calf out or the cow out, depending on what it is. and then you have two people on their horses. One is the header, so they rope the head, the other one ropes the heels. And you do that in as quick time as you can. It's all as fast as you can do.
And to give people context, this is people coming out of the pen, going at a sprint on a horse, and then catching this animal and jumping off their horse at full speed. So I can only imagine what that does to your body over time.
It is, but when you're young and dumb, you don't know any better. So you're just living your life. And it's funny that you say that, because my dad used to tell me my whole life, he's like, you're going to regret this. You're going to regret this. And I'm like, shoot, I'm 17. I feel awesome. And yeah, he was right.
Oh, well, why was he saying that? Is that something that he did too, or?
No, he just knew better. He just knew when you do dumb things to your body when you're younger, you're just going to pay for them when you're older.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I was a cheerleader. I was a weightlifter when I was in high school. Like, I did all kinds of stuff. And he's like, you're just going to regret this one day. And he kind of was right.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So is there a family background? Because that's like a crazy, I mean, I can't say anything. Like, we've talked, I did pro wrestling, which is on that same spectrum of crazy that just isn't a common thing. So was this like a family thing, or were you like the first in the family to do this?
No, it's kind of, I don't really want to say it's a family thing, but growing up in Arizona, it's very common. You know, Arizona has the longest continuous rodeo in history.
Wow.
Yeah. So my step grandmother and my step aunt, and then they were all in the rodeo and doing that type of stuff. So yeah, she just got us started, me and one of my little sisters, when we were young, and it just stuck. And I'm the only one that stuck with it. Nobody else continued with it. I was hooked. That was like a drug.
Yeah.
So,
the adrenaline on that is
adrenaline is ridiculous. I was trying to explain this to somebody. You know, you're standing outside the gates. Your horse knows those gates are going to get open. Your horse is just like chomping at the bit, and it's just like rearing up, ready to go. Because as soon as those gates open, it's just like a bullet shooting out of a gun.
Yeah.
And such an amazing feeling.
I got this overwhelming urge that I need to do this.
No, you don't.
So be really careful. We don't need to have a back surgery too.
I'll give you context. This man has ridden a horse once, and it was on a walking trail.
Hey, yeah, don't do that. You gotta work your way up to that.
So you said you were a cheerleader, weightlifter, when you were younger. What is like your sports background? Like, what did you get started with? When did that start, and how did you get into that?
I was never good at sports. I was terrible. So I became a cheerleader because I knew how to like clap and do that kind of fun stuff. And I did get into gymnastics, so that helped. But I didn't start that until I was around probably 13, 14 years old. So I was never a sports person. I was always just a cowgirl. And it's just two different, worlds in a sense. But I wanted to be a cheerleader. I wanted to dance on the field and do all that fun stuff. So I tried out for cheerleading when I was in 8th grade and made the freshman team, and then just did that throughout high school, and it was fun.
And how did that translate to weightlifting?
So weightlifting is actually, when I was in high school, this was a long time ago, we actually had, you could do PE or you could do weightlifting. And I just wanted to do weightlifting. So I decided to do that. And I started that my freshman year and did that all 4 years. A lot different than now. Of course, we're talking 1986, 87, 88. So it's a different world now. And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't know if we had the option, but I know we had a weightlifting club when I was in high school. We didn't really have a weightlifting as like an elective or an option. What was your routine like when you were weightlifting? Did that help you or hinder you when it came to cheerleading? Because I'd assume those are kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum, or did they kind of work together?
So when I say weightlifting, I'm not talking about what you guys do, not powerlifting, that type of stuff. It's just more of, building strength and building muscle, but not like competitive type stuff.
Gotcha.
It did help me with my strength. It helped me with my barrel racing. It did help me with my cheerleading and things like that. And it just made me feel good about myself.
Okay, gotcha. For ours, like the weightlifting club was that like squat, bench, deadlift, and it was in a teacher's classroom at lunch and breaks.
Yeah.
No, it was completely different. This was actually an elected class. So yeah, I grew up in a little tiny hick town, went to a high school that had maybe 500 people. So we didn't have all that kind of cool stuff. So we just did what we could do and have fun. And I
Yeah.
liked it. It was fun. It was a good environment, cool people. I got to work out with like all the football players and all that kind of fun stuff. So that was cool.
So it was kind of a small town. Everyone knows everyone.
Oh, yes.
Everyone knows everyone's drama.
Everybody's up in your business. Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody's up in your business. And I'm the only one out of my entire family that moved away from that small town. I was like, I'm out. Bye. I don't want to be here anymore. It was just, there's no anonymity there. Everybody knows you. And even now, if I go back, I can go back once a year and I'll run into somebody that I went to high school with 35 years ago. And I'm like, ay.
Oh, wow. Was there something, what made you want to leave?
It's just that small town. I just wanted to explore. I just wanted to get out of there and come down to the valley, go to college, all that fun stuff. I just felt the need to leave. I just didn't want to be there anymore.
Was there anything that happened with family or was it?
Yeah, I did not have a good raising. My stepmother, so I guess we should back up a little bit. My biological parents had me when they were young. They were married at 17 and 18, and then they had me a year later. And my mom, my biological mother, left when I was an infant. She just abandoned me and my father. And so my dad remarried when I was 2 to my stepmother. And she was not a very good mother. She had a very difficult time raising somebody else's child. So there was a lot of childhood trauma when it came to that. So yeah, I definitely wanted to leave that stigma behind and just journey out on my own and just find myself.
When you say that she wasn't a very good stepmother, what does that mean?
Very physically abusive, verbally, emotional. Like every day I was told I was not wanted. Every day I was told that my own mother didn't want me. I was just.
She expressed that to you verbally?
Oh yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And
I was called all kinds of bad things.
And where was your dad when this happened? Like, was this something that was kind of done behind closed doors, or is this like out in the open?
Somewhat. My dad traveled a lot. My parents owned their own business, so my dad traveled a lot in sales and things like that. So he wasn't around for a lot of the physical abuse. He was around for the emotional and verbal, but my dad was, I guess, he just felt, I don't know, weak. She definitely is the alpha female in the family, and she just kind of ran the roost. And I think my dad was fearful of her, and he only intervened a couple times when I was getting hurt, but it took me a lot of years to forgive my father for that. But it's all good now.
Right? Yeah. No, we're just stating what has happened, and just sharing your story so you can,
absolutely.
someone can hear this and go, "Holy crap, I'm going through that same thing." Like, how did this woman get through this? Like, that is a lot to heal from.
I feel like I don't know where I've drawn that strength necessarily. I think that when I was born, there was just something put in me like, all right, you just need to hold on tight because it's going to be a rough ride.
Oh.
So just don't give up. And I really don't know where that strength come from. Sometimes I think it was God. I'm not 100% certain. But it just really helped me get through that and just persevere.
When did the physical? So you said they remarried at 2. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember when your mom left?
Oh no, I was an infant. I was like 3 months old. My dad was 19. No, he had just turned 20 when I was born. He turned 20 7 days after I was born. And he was going to night school and he was working as well. So he was never around, and he came home early in the morning, and I had been, I guess, in my crib, I don't know how long, hours and hours and hours, and she had packed up and left. Oh. So I was around 3 months old from what I was told.
So how long did the abuse, all of the above, go on until, like, what age were you? Was it through high school until you graduated, and then once you graduated you were free of it, or?
It happened all the way through high school, and then actually my senior year in high school, I actually ended up leaving home. There was an incident. My grandmother was there, my stepmom, I should say, and I don't remember what the argument was about, but she just started shaking me and she threw me down the stairs. And so my best friend was with me at the time. She took me out of the house and took me to her house, and I never went back. I waited for my dad to get back in town. I think he had been in Boston. He pulled me out of high school and he said, well, let's just get you an apartment. So as a senior in high school, I had my own place. So I was free from that. And that ended that day. I never looked back.
It takes a lot to be able to not go back. It's your home. I mean,
it never felt like my home. So I'm actually an only child, and then I have a stepsister and then 3 half sisters. So my 3 half sisters were so much younger than me, so I wasn't really raised with them, but it never felt like a home to me. Never missed it. I never felt like I had a mom. I never felt like I really had a safe space, or so I didn't miss it at all.
Now, did they go through the same abuse, or was this because you're like the stepdaughter?
Yeah, so I started therapy when I was 30. I had gone through a divorce, and I started therapy because I'd never dealt with all that trauma that I had as a child. And I went every day for an entire year, and not every day, once a week for an entire year. And what my therapist came up with was that, and I did confirm this with my father, is that my mother, my biological mother, was my dad's true love. And I found out later, because I got to meet her in and out of, she popped in and out of my life for a while. We can get into that later, but I looked just like her as well. So I think that the therapist felt like when Jackie, my stepmom, saw me, she just saw the love of my dad's life.
Oh, and it was just,
so she took that out on me. And it makes sense looking back. She was never proud of me for anything that I ever did. If my dad even gloated, like my daughter's a straight A student, or my daughter's a cheerleader, or my daughter's this, she hated it. She just despised it. She did not want to hear anything good that I had accomplished in my life.
I gotta imagine that had to have been hard for your dad also. I mean, having a kid at 19, and then the love of your life just leaves you and your daughter. I can only imagine being a new father and being married, how that would impact him. Again, that's not like an excuse for anything, but that had to have been tough on him. Have you guys ever had discussions about like how it impacted both of you?
No, we really haven't. I have such a strange relationship with my father. Like, I love him. He's so wise. He's so smart. He's taught me so much about, life and survival and things like that, but we never had this really close connection. And over the years, as I was an adult, he would kind of give me little tidbits about why my mom was the way she was, my biological mother. Like, he didn't want to share things with me until I was an adult. And she had some major trauma in her life as well. My dad has, asked for my forgiveness, and I've given him that, and we've just moved forward. But no, he's never really, my dad's not much to open up about himself. He's kind of closed off when it comes to that. But I know that he feels guilty. I know that he felt guilty for a lot of years after, I became an adult, and that he did not protect me, which he should have done. And I did not resent him for that, but it took me a long time to forgive him for that, for sure.
That's huge of you. Myself, having gone through some similar circumstances, that the power and ability to forgive somebody and not hold resentment says a lot about you as a person and your character, because that's not an easy thing to give somebody else.
See, for me, it is. I don't understand. That is just one of the things that I do love about myself, is I've always been able to process things, forgive, move forward. I don't always allow that person to stay in my life. It just really depends on how toxic it was. But I don't want to allow people that have hurt me or harmed me to hold space in my heart, to hold space in my head, because it's giving them the power, and I don't want them to have that power over me anymore.
So you said you started going to therapy at 30. I'm curious. Yes, I'm curious as to when you moved out, that gap between, I'm assuming you said senior year, so around 17-ish, between that and 30, what was it that finally drove you to say, I need help, I need to figure this out? Was there was there a change in you that you noticed that just wasn't sitting right, or what was it that got you to that point?
I was going through a divorce. I had 2 little kids. I was just a mess, and I just was not in a good place in my head. And I decided to seek counsel, and just, I had never, ever, ever talked about the trauma that had happened to me as a child and as a teenager to anybody. And so when you hold on to that, you're so broken. I was so broken. I had no self-esteem. I had no self-confidence. I wasn't even confident I could, be a good mom, even though that's the one thing I've done right. So I just decided it was time for me to talk to somebody about what had happened. And I didn't think I'd be in therapy for an entire year, but I'm glad that I did it.
And what kind of tools, tools did you learn to cope with and deal with those, with that trauma?
I had to learn how to forgive, and I had to learn how to forgive myself. I had to learn how to love myself. And that has been a process. In all honesty, it didn't just happen over that year. It's taken me the last, probably, I would say I've finally gotten into a good place with who I am, maybe over the last 5 years. So it has been a long, long, long journey. It's just, I've just learned, I've made so many mistakes that I have just learned to rid of the toxicity in my life, to learn how to say no, to learn how to love myself, to learn that it's not okay for people to treat me badly. It's just been a process for me.
Yeah, that's a big. I appreciate hearing that from somebody. This is your story. It's not about me, but I've recently gone through the same thing, and to be able to, excuse me, to recognize those issues and those things that you're dealing with, and to raise your hand and say, I need help is a huge thing. And the fact that you were able to forgive yourself and to come to terms with those things and forgive other people, like you said, whether in your life or not, and learn to love yourself and work on yourself is a huge deal.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge advocate for counseling and mental health awareness. Like, I still go in and out of counseling when I go through just issues that I'm struggling with, and I need some tools to help me cope with certain things. I will raise it from the rooftops and say, you need help. You go to counseling. You need help. You need to get, it's very difficult for someone to process trauma on their own. And everybody's had some sort of trauma. It's just unfortunate, but that's just how it is. And for people to think that they're just okay and they're just going to go through this life and they're not understanding why they're angry, or why they're not having good relationships, or why they can't keep a good job, or, why they're drinking, or why they're doing drugs, all those things, it stems from the trauma that you've not gotten help for. So I'm a huge advocate for that.
Absolutely. Like, having the desire to find those tools, or asking the why am I this way? It's come up in a couple of our stories, but that, kind of like you said, it's just almost like it was put into you, that desire to have that grittiness to endure, but then also to let yourself seek out the help that you need to get. I loved that you said that you go back now, right when you're feeling something. That takes practice. When did you realize, like, okay, this is something that I need in the present day? Because people do have a hard time with the word therapy. It makes people feel broken. It makes people feel like, oh,
it's like a stigma around it.
Yeah. Because it makes people think that they're weak and they can't figure their own shit out. And it's just not true. We all need help. We all need somebody to talk us through things. I don't know. I think just, going through that when I was 30, and that really helped me unload so much off my chest and my heart. And just knowing that when I needed help throughout the years, like, just go get it. I have a great counselor. I've been seeing him off and on since 2012. So just recently, just the last few months, I've been seeing him off and on. So it's a necessity. And sometimes it's just like, I just need to talk, and I just need to get some tools. I need to be reminded, this is how you should do this. This is what you shouldn't be doing. And, because we fall back on our old ways sometimes and can't move forward if you keep doing that.
So when you before you went to seek therapy, what were the things that you noticed that kind of the flags that in your head were like, okay, I need to seek help to figure these things out? Like, was there anger, anxiety? How did those traumas manifest in you physically, to raise awareness to say, hey, I need to go talk to somebody?
For me, it's more about broken relationships and having just a string of bad relationships and a string of, you know, people in my life that I allowed to be into my life that were just as abusive as, my stepmother that did things to, I just realized that I'm broken when it comes to that. And that stemmed from the insecurity, that stemmed from not having any self-esteem. And I needed to find who I was, who Holly is. And that's where most of the brokenness came from over, since I was 17 until, maybe the last 10 years has just been toxic relationships. And I mean friendships, I mean, physical relationships, marriage, that all that type of stuff, and I finally learned how to have a voice. I finally learned how to say no. I finally learned to say this isn't okay. And I was never, ever, ever able to do that. And it has been super liberating. Over the last 5 years, I've learned how to only allow people in my life that are going to build me up. If there's any type of, toxicity or drama constantly, and I feel like I'm trying to fix somebody, which I always had that problem. I always felt like I could fix somebody, and it just was hurting me even even deeper. So I've broken those cycles, and it's been pretty awesome.
That's amazing. When did you find that the normalcy, was it going into those toxic relationships? Did you find that you noticed that it wasn't normal, or was just having that normalcy come through your childhood, did it just roll over into your adulthood?
Yeah, I think so. I think because I was never felt like I was ever loved. I was always seeking that love. I was always seeking that validation. I was always seeking somebody to make me feel good about myself. And I just put myself in just bad situations. And now I'm realizing that comes from within. Like, nobody's going to make me happy. I can't put that expectation on anybody. That I have to find that happiness within myself. And I have to find what brings me joy and what makes me feel fulfilled and what my purpose is, and not rely on other people. And that's what I was doing. I was wanting to be wanted all the time because I never was wanted, if that makes sense.
That is so powerful. I cannot tell you how much courage it takes to acknowledge it, but then to actually act upon it. Like, people can know that they need to do something, but to actually act upon it and change who you are as a person fundamentally, to be a better version of yourself and to live a happier life. It's amazing.
Yeah, there was a traumatic incident that happened in our lives about 5.5 years ago that really just changed the trajectory of how I think and how I do things, how I view every day as a gift. And that there really helped me. I had lost my stepson in a motorcycle accident. And so when that happened and Christian left us, it just really helped me see, like, what is life really about? Like, because you're not promised tomorrow. You could leave your house today and never come back. And so I hate to use that milestone, but that's really what was the stepping stone in my life to make me just really find who I was. And it's been, there's a Bible verse that talks about beauty from ashes, and that's what it was. There's this tragedy, but it's just some beautiful things have come from it.
Yeah, death is tragic and unfortunate and terribly sad. However,
but it's a guarantee, we're all going to die. So it's just, how are we going to live? I like to say, there's your birth date and your death date, and then there's the dash in between. Well, how are you going to live that dash in between?
Yeah, helps you live a little bit more fully.
Yeah. What's your purpose? What makes you feel good? Live your life for you, and live your life for others. Whatever makes you happy, as long as it's healthy.
Absolutely.
No, that's huge. We try to. It's really hard, right? It sounds like I always try to say that there's a purpose or reason for everything, whether it's some people might be religious, might be not, but there's a reason things happen, and it doesn't always present itself to us right away. But at some point in our life, we see that purpose, and you've been able to find that positive in such a dark place and help other people, which is huge. Once you started going to therapy, you got divorced. Did things kind of pick up from there? Like when you started seeing those changes in you, did you see the empowerment and changes like in your behavior I can't talk tonight, and the people you're letting in your life? Was it like, did it start clicking like, okay, I've got this, I'm able to recognize the toxic people and weed them out before they really get in? Was that something that kind of transitioned your life?
Nope. I still was making tons of mistakes when it came to that. I was still choosing the wrong friends and choosing the wrong partners and just making bad choices still. I still, even though I had worked through that trauma in a sense, I still had a hard time feeling like I was lovable, that I was desired, that people would love me for just who I was, even though I really didn't know who I was. No, I still was making some bad choices. And like I said, I started back up in therapy in 20. So that was 2000 when I was 30. And then I started back up in therapy about 2012. And that's where things started clicking a little bit better for me and helping me make better choices. And then again, like I said, when we lost Christian, everything, it was just like day and night. It just seemed, things just clicked in my head. Like, what am I doing? And you have to change the way you are. You're never going to be truly happy. So like I said, I'm almost 52 and it's just taken me the last few years, but I'm super grateful for it. And I'm grateful for the journey and where it's got me. And I've never been this happy with who I am. And I'm pretty stoked about my life right now.
That's awesome. Moving forward. So with all of, this is a lot of heavy, emotional, spiritual obstacles that you've overcome, you strong ass woman. But within all of that, you were dealing with all of these injuries and pain, which adds a heightened effect of just one more obstacle to overcome. Do you remember I'm sure you do, but your first major injury that kind of, what was your first major injury that kind of cascaded your back into just this constant circle of having to take care of it?
I would say when I think I was 15 or 16, my horse, I was competing, my horse got spooked. And when your horse spooks, your horse just runs like it, and you have no control over it. Like if you've ever seen a horse just like get spooked and just take off, like,
oh yeah,
that's what happened. And he was just running around the arena. I was trying to hold on for dear life because I didn't want to get bucked off. And if you've ever seen when a horse can stop, it can stop on a dime. So he just decided to stop, and I went over the fence and I landed in the bleachers. I was just thrown trajectory through and over the bleachers. That was my first injury. So I think I was like 15 or 16.
Whoa. Yeah. And what was the injury?
Let's see. I've had so many. I didn't break anything, I don't think.
What, you didn't start a journal and write down all your injuries?
No. I've had broken ankles. I've had broken fingers. I've had a dislocated shoulder. Maybe that's what it was. Did I have a dislocated shoulder then? That might have been what it was. It was a long time ago, you guys. That was a long time.
I'm just giving you shit.
That was a long time ago. But yeah, so that's kind of where that started. But for me, I don't know. So we can get back to talking about my dad a little bit. He raised 5 daughters, no sons, and he raised us all like boys, tough, to be tough. And so I think I don't know, if we got bucked off, we were just like, you get back on that horse. Unless your leg's falling off or something's like, just, you don't walk away from it. You just get back on it and you just finish what you started.
There's a reason that's a metaphor.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of helped me. That's been a metaphor in my life as well. It's like, okay, just, you know what, shit just happened, but just pull your bootstraps up. Let's go. Let's persevere, move forward. You can't go back. Let's just go forward. And so for me, injury has always just been there for, it seems like the majority of my life, but I've just always dealt with it. I've learned how to cope with it and just manage it with eating healthy and trying to stay fit and trying to stay off as many drugs as I can. Once in a while I have to take something, having surgeries like physical therapy, cupping, scraping, everything you can think of I've had done. I have tried everything to just kind of manage the pain and keep it at bay and just live my life. And there's a lot of things that I can't do that I want to do, but it is what it is. At least I'm walking. I'm not in a wheelchair. I don't need any assistance. I can get myself dressed. I can take care of myself. So I do feel blessed when it comes to that, because there's people that have been in my position that used to be in that lifestyle that have had major damage to their bodies, that are in wheelchairs, that can't walk, that, so.
I have a feeling I'm going to be living a similar life as your dad, and I'm probably going to have all girls.
Yeah. So if you've seen a picture of my father, he's only 71, but he looks like he's 90, and he's all gray. He looks like Santa Claus, and he says it's from raising 5 daughters, and I believe it. I have one, and that's enough. So I get that they're a lot to deal with, but they're pretty awesome if you give them that strength right on at the beginning, and I think you guys are doing that.
Oh, thanks.
So something cool that if you want to explain a little bit to people, because this was new to me, your dad has a special belief system, religion that he follows, correct?
Yes, it's what he follows it, but he also started an organization in the early 70s here in Arizona. It's called Arizona True. And it's really just the guidelines and the teachings of Norse mythology. He doesn't like when I say mythology, but just the teachings of, I basically look at it as earth and energy and power and strength, and from Thor and Odin and Freya. Like I don't know if you know this or not, but I even have a sister named Valkyrie.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and the funny story is that if you know anything about the Valkyrie, she's tall and she has long flowing blonde hair and she's powerful, and all of us are short and she's the only one that's tall and she's the only one that's blonde. So it's ironic.
That's crazy.
And she was bald for 2 years. We didn't even know she was going to have blonde hair, and we all have dark hair and we're short, and she's just this 5'9" blonde goddess. I'm like, of course she is.
How funny.
She's the real Valkyrie. But yeah, so I grew up with that. I guess call it a religion, and it was very weird. It was different. There was, everybody is searching for something. Mm-hmm. And the people that would come to my father's organization were all searching for something. And, a lot of bikers, a lot of ex-convicts, things like that, people that just wanted to live the Viking lifestyle. And that's what they would do. They would just get loud and rowdy and throw axes and drink a bunch of mead. And that's what it was. That's how I grew up.
It's amazing.
Yeah, my dad had a vision. My dad had a vision when he was 9 years old. And that's where he started. That was when he was 9 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
all I've known my whole life is also true. So with him.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I've recently started reading a few books on. I also kind of hate saying mythology, because it's to Scandinavian people. It's not necessarily mythology. I can't even say the word tonight. Like it's their beliefs. So I kind of feel guilty saying mythology. But it's really, really interesting. And like you were saying, everybody's trying to find something. And that's that, whether you're religious or not, or spiritual. I find all these different religions super interesting, whether it's Greek mythology or Norse or, ancient Egypt, like the different gods and the different beliefs, and just kind of how people tie their lives and their well-being and everything into these figures and stories. Where did you, because you grew up in that, when did you kind of travel outside of that? And because you're a religious person, correct?
So I was my whole life I never felt connected to Odinism. I never felt connected to Asatru. It was just, that was my dad, and I just did what he did, and I went where he went, and was a part of these gatherings, but it never really resonated with me. And when I want to say I was 15 or 16, I just felt this urge to go to church. And I got dressed on a Sunday morning, and there was this little chapel down the street, and I just went to church.
Wow.
And my dad told me my whole life that, this is what you're going to do until you're an adult, and then you can make your own decision and I'll respect it. And it was hard for him at first when he knew I was seeking Christianity in a sense. He had a really hard time with it at first, but he's come to embrace it. But he also knows that, like you, Sean, I kind of like, it's not just focused on one thing. I kind of like to read about different things and different religions and just energies and just, I don't know, it just seems like it's just so much more than what's written in the Bible. So that's kind of how I live my life. I'm not just a stoic religious, Christian in a sense. I kind of open my sights up for a little bit of other things as well.
I have a huge respect for people who just find whatever it is that brings them peace. So I grew up Christian, and it's such a powerful, any religion, spirituality, whatever, it's all super powerful. My grandmother, when she passed away, was staying in a was it assisted living home, and very religious. And the morning she passed, she asked the caretaker, said that she called him in the room, asked if he would say a prayer with her. He closed his eyes, said a prayer. When he opened his eyes, she was gone.
Yeah.
And it's such a cool, powerful thing that people can put their faith and their life in whatever being that brings them peace. Did that help you? Did you lean on that a lot throughout your life in your different milestones and struggles to did that help push you ahead?
Yeah, I did off and on. It wasn't as constant, which if it was, I probably would have, been in a better place. But, I kind of tell the story of like when I was born or before I was even born, I felt like Jesus just whispered in my ear and he's like, hey, it's going to be tough, but just trust in me and I'm going to get you through it. I promise you're going to be okay in the end. So I just felt that there was always something spiritual just instilled in me that just helped me persevere through all the crap. And, I do have a strong faith and I do rely on Christ, and it's definitely helped me work through the traumas and forgive and just be a good person. And when I say good person, just to try to add joy to people's lives and to just make people feel good about who they are and not be an asshole. Just try not to be an asshole.
So it's just a great tag.
That's my goal.
It's an amazing tag.
Just don't be an asshole, Holly.
Should be a bumper sticker. Don't be an asshole.
I'm sure it is somewhere.
So like Savannah said, this has been super heavy. I want to talk about the last year. You made that huge change. What drove you to, at 52, say, you know what? I'm venturing out.
I'm not 52 yet, Sean. I'm not 52 yet.
Don't
I'm
do
only
that to her.
Sorry, my bad. I'll get Sav will give me the lashings later for screwing that up.
I'm just kidding.
So what made you? Because this is super awesome. A huge ton of respect. What made you say
A huge ton?
a huge ton?
That's a new metric.
It's a little more than a shit ton.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's an actual measurement. What made you say, you know what? I'm going to stop my job. I'm going to go work for myself and I'm going to make this happen. And then it happened. So how did that whole thing come around?
So my daughter's engaged to Chris, which I think you follow My Way Fitness, right? So you know Chris and My Way Fitness. So he runs his own business, his own studio. He's a trainer, macro trainer, an online trainer. He's got a supplement line and things like that. He came to me about a year ago. And so I have been a food prepper for a good 10, 11 years. I started food prepping years ago because I was working a full-time job. I always make healthy food. I wanted everything to be from scratch, but I got tired of cooking every single night. So I started cooking on the weekends. And I would just make up the food for all of us in the family and say, this is what we've got, this is what we're eating. And so fast forward, Chris was like, he's working 60, 70 hours a week. He's like, hey, if I just give you money, will you just start making me some food so I don't have to worry about it? And I'm like, sure, I'll food prep for you. So fast forward to this last May, so not too long ago, but about 7 months ago, He's like, I have a business proposal for you. He's like, let's go to dinner. So we go to dinner. He's like, I have an idea and I think that this would work. He goes, I really want to add the component to My Way Fitness. I want to add a food prep service and I want you to run it. I want you to create recipes. I want you to just manage. I want you to just see how this will go. And I instantly was stoked. I'm like, are you kidding me? This would be awesome because I love to cook. I love to do all those things. It doesn't even seem like work for me. And so he's like, well, let's brainstorm, come up with some recipes. We'll tweak them. We'll give them out to clients and see what they think. And this was in May. So on the week of Father's Day in June, he just texted because we finally finalized all the recipes. We had just, I think, 3 protein meals at that time and a couple egg bites. And he's like, I think we're good. Let's just, I think I'm just going to launch it tonight. Let's just launch it. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I was so nervous. And he just put it on Facebook or Instagram. And within like seconds, his feed was just blowing up. Like, yes, 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 please, please, please. And I'm like, all right, let's try this. So my goal was like, this will be a nice little side hustle. I work a full-time job. I was managing a plastic surgeon's office, working in the medical field. And I was like, this will be nice to have a little extra money on the side. So the first week we launched, we did 317 meals, which I was like, okay, this is doable. This is fun. And by week 3, we did almost 1,000 meals. Woo! And this is just me and my daughter running it in my kitchen here in this house.
Yeah.
And so I started to quickly realize, like, there's no way I can work full time and work all weekend long. It's just going to kill me.
Yeah.
So I just decided to take a leap of faith. And at the beginning of July, I told my boss, I was like, I'm going to give you a 2 months notice. I'll find you a good replacement. And I ended up leaving by mid-August, and we have just been full force since then. It's been insane.
That's amazing. So you guys are family after my own heart. How many fridges do you have now?
I have 4 refrigerators and a deep freezer.
Nice.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. When people walk into my house, you walk in and there's like what's supposed to be like the office or sitting room. It's got just like refrigerators and desks, and it's got shelving units with just all kinds of equipment, and just, it's ridiculous. People are like, do you collect refrigerators? Like, if they don't know this is what I do, they're like, this is odd. When you walk in somebody's house, the entryway, you're seeing refrigerators. But I have 4 refrigerators and a deep freezer.
It's a lifestyle.
We are pretty much at full capacity. I am probably just a few weeks away from needing another refrigerator.
It's amazing.
I know.
It's amazing.
I got my electric bill yesterday and it went up $183. I went, yep, I knew this was going to happen. So yeah, it's a little business expense.
It's amazing how people's desire to not make food for themselves.
Oh my gosh. So the funny thing is I literally felt guilty for weeks and weeks. I'm like, I'm like profiting off of people's laziness. and Chris is like, yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. Well, the thing is I do specific meals. So I do very specific macro meals. So everything is weighed and measured specifically for these meals. So that is that takes a lot of time. If I was just cooking up a bunch of whatever, that's nothing. But to take the time to weigh and measure your food, if you're a bodybuilder or you're trying to reach your fitness goals, that is hard to do.
Yeah.
And so people are, I would rather have somebody do it for me. I'll just pay them and I don't have to worry about it. All they have to do is just log into MyFitnessPal and they just type in My Way Fitness Prep and every single one of my meals pop up. So they don't even have to log anything in. All they have to do is click on it.
That is dope. There's so many moving parts to, a lot of people don't understand, like when you're at that point in your journey and you're gaining muscle, it takes, people think like, oh, I don't want to get buff. It takes calculated numbers and a calculated plan. There's so many moving parts to reaching that goal that literally you are taking one of the hardest parts, if not the hardest part to get to that specific goal for people and making it so much easier for them.
It's really true. And I didn't even really understand what macro training was. It's been almost a year now that I started it and it's just changed my body like drastically. I'm super like excited about it. So I can understand it a little bit more, but people don't understand like all the food you need to eat, all the protein, but you have to have specific amount of protein, specific amount of fat. You want to have, the correct meals and calculating that on your own and then cooking it all up and getting it ready. It's a pain in the butt. So I'm profiting off of people not wanting to cook, people that work full time. I have a lot of clients that feed this stuff to their kids.
Oh,
like
yeah.
They don't even want to cook for their kids. I'm like, hey, whatever works.
Teaching them how to be healthy.
We started out with 3 protein meals and 2 egg bites and 1 protein pudding. And now I have 6 protein meals and 3 different puddings and still the egg bites. We did a holiday special. I wanted to come up and create like a holiday meal that was kind of a play on Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner, but keeping it macro. And it's been our biggest seller for the last 4 weeks that we just kept it on. People are just super excited about it. So I'm like,
absolutely.
All right, do it.
Well, that's the biggest time of year where people are freaking out about like, how am I going to maintain?
I think it's because I created a macro mashed potato and everybody just wants to eat mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The rice and the other stuff. So yeah,
that's
what
awesome.
I think it is. Yeah.
So how many meals do you guys do a week now?
It just depends, but around 1,000 to 1,200.
Ugh. And what is your, I believe you do Sundays, correct?
Sunday is our pickup day. Yes. So Sunday is the day that we take everything down to the studio. We have everybody come to the studio and pick up their meals. But my daughter Destiny and I, we work probably Thursday, Friday, Saturday, like good 9 to 10 hours, just getting everything. There's a lot of preparation that goes into it. And then, the weighing and the measuring, that takes us almost the entire day to do all of that for all these meals. And every time you add a new meal, you're adding so many extra hours to, the process of it all.
That is amazing. And how does it feel to be like a newfound career? And
oh my gosh, I could never go back to working for anybody. It's not going to happen. I could never do it. I am my own boss. I get up and do what I want when I want. This morning, get up, have coffee, maybe read a devotional. I went and worked out. Like I just do whatever I want and then decide, okay, I'm going to start working. I mean, we have our specific days that we work really hard, but the other days I'm just like, we just chill out, do what we want to do. It's just been pretty awesome to not be under somebody else's thumb, to not have to worry about, I can't schedule this doctor's appointment or I can't get my hair done at this time because I'm working. It's just been super liberating for me. And to be able to make a living on it and to make a better living than I was doing when I was, managing a very successful plastic surgeon's office. It's just super surreal for me. So I'm like, this is pretty awesome.
Goals.
Yeah.
Real quick, do you have any tips for anybody who has an idea of a business they want to start in their head?
It's hard for me to give advice on that because in all honesty, I was handed the golden goose. I was handed an already successful business. I was handed this clientele. I was just funneled into My Way Fitness. I didn't have to market myself. I didn't have to find clients. It was just really more about Chris coming to me and just saying, here, I'm handing it to you, take it and do what you want to do with it. But with that being said, the advice that I can give, what I've learned is that I'm super administrative. That's one of my greatest spiritual gifts is administration. You have to be structured. You have to be goal oriented. You can't just have a vision. You have to have a plan. It took us weeks to work out all the kinks, but everything is very structured. Destiny has her roles. I have my roles. We know exactly how things are done, where things are put, how things are processed, the timeline of things that have to be done. So you have to make sure that you have some sort of structure in your life and that you're good with organization.
That's awesome. So I gave you a little prep ahead. Wrapping this up, if you had 1 minute to give anybody advice, leave a lasting impression on listeners, on the world, in 1 minute, a rough minute, because I don't count because I can't count. What would that advice be?
I would say, so some of the best advice that I was given that I could relay is that to mean what you say when you're going to do something and follow through with that. Don't just be a talker, to follow through with whatever you say you're going to do, whether it's with your children. When you say, hey, if I have to tell you one more time, I'm going to put you in timeout, you better put that child in timeout if they act out on you, because that's just a way to just build respect. And then I was also saying that to respect others and to treat others as you would like to be treated. Find whatever it is in your life that's going to fulfill your heart, your journey, your purpose. And that can change. Like some people think that your purpose is what you're set with in destined, from birth. And I don't believe that. I think that it just changes throughout your life. But find whatever brings you joy and just love on people and forgive people. That's just how I live my life. That's the best advice I could give for others.
That's awesome. And Holly, where can they find you to follow? I know you guys have plans for the future, but where can they follow you?
So right now, if you want to follow us on Instagram, we're at My Way Fitness Prepped, and also My Way Fitness. So My Way Fitness page would be, of course, the classes, the macro training, all of that. And My Way Fitness Preps would be if you wanted to look at our meals and what we're doing and how we're growing and what's going to be for the future.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. Like, share, if you can, rate it so we can boost the show and get it out to more people. Stories like this. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Nine Realms Athletics. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Don't forget you can use the promo code MANIFEST at ninerealmsathletics.com for your next order on shirt, hoodie, hats, beanie. I think we have some flags left. Flags. And as always, we are open to suggestions and looking for guests. So if you know anyone who has an amazing story that could help somebody, if you have an amazing story that you think could help anybody, if you have a topic you'd like to share, then email us, DM us, call, text, whatever it is, get a hold of us. We'd love to talk to you or talk to anyone you know. Holly, thank you so much. We can't tell you how much we appreciate your time.
I appreciate you guys. This was awesome. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, and we will catch you on the next episode.